What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. Okay, Merry Christmas Eve. Hopefully everyone is having a good morning, a good day. We got football right around the corner. I don't want to say historic because we've seen Wednesday games before in that crazy 2020 season. So games every day, every time you can't imagine. But obviously the NFL's takeover of Christmas, and we got a couple Wednesday games. We even got a Thursday game. The Bears, we just can't get away from them. So I thought I would bring on my main man Stuckey, and we would hammer home some thoughts as we head into this historic. That seems a little strong, but fun Wednesday with the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Texans, and the Steelers, who all played Saturday and now are mixing opponents. So, yeah, we will talk to him. But before we do, I got to tell you about my friends, my partners, the official ticketing app of this podcast, Gametime. If you want to go to a game, if you want to go to a concert, they have you covered. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code JOHN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code JOHN for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Lowest last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All lines that we will be discussing are provided by DraftKings. Okay, a little Christmas special with my good buddy, my gambling partner, and someone who probably respects Indiana as little as I do at this point in time, and I'm sure can't wait to hammer the under in 2025 because I already looked at their schedule. At Penn State, at Oregon, at Iowa, and every other Big Ten. Can't wait to beat the shit out of them. So thank you, Indiana, for ruining our weekend. You too, SMU. But obviously, the Rams and the 49ers ruined mine. Stuckey's weekend because we bet against the Rams and on the 49ers, and Rams covered, and the 49ers surely did not. So, Stuckey, quick turnaround here. Not used to talking to you on early in the week, but how you doing, brother?
Good, man. Yeah, Sunday was rough. I had the Raiders as a favorite was my only winner. Imagine that. Yeah,
You're a
the
sicko.
Rams
You're a sicko on that one. I appreciate it.
the Rams came out flat as we thought, and the Jets just countless mistakes. Usually you get the home dog catching 3.5 to cover in that spot. This year, for whatever reason, the NFL those spots just haven't been hitting. But yeah, we have football. Wednesday, Thursday. We have bowls all week. NFL Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So yeah, it's happy holidays to everybody. Enjoy Merry Christmas. Enjoy the football and your couch time. And yeah, Indiana, I thought like their run defense held up well. They gave up that 98 yard. Other than that, Notre Dame averaged like 2.5 yards per carry, but nothing else was up to par. The most disappointing part was just how cowardly they called the game, which was kind of a theme throughout. It was a win or go home. Like what I thought Tennessee too, punting down 17, but you Indiana punting down 3 possessions. What were you doing? Fair catching every kick, draws on third and long. It was just a cowardly gameplay from a coach who just talks all that shit and then coached with his tail between his legs for the entire game. He has a college football weekend dominated by the favorites and the home teams. And then, as we thought, Oregon, oh, I mean, winning that Big Ten championship, hopefully they can win the national title because that's might be the only banner they have. The teams, Georgia, excuse me, Texas and Penn State, who lost on conference championship weekend, are double-digit favorites. Georgia's small favorite and the biggest underdog of the top seeds is Oregon against Ohio State, 2.5 point underdog. That's their reward. Broken bracket, how they structured it, but that's their reward for going undefeated, the only undefeated team, and winning the Big Ten championship. They're a 2.5 point underdog against Ohio State. Pretty amazing.
You know what? Before we dive into Wednesday, I would have told you a month ago that like the NFL. I'm glad you're playing on Christmas, but you're kind of ruining my college football playoff weekend. thank God we had those two NFL games, especially I'm a sucker and I know you're a Ravens guy. That game just feels so awesome on TV every time they play. I don't care. Dilfer could be their quarterback, Flacco could be their quarterback, Lamar could be their quarterback, Roethlisberger, I don't care. That game, that was thing is made for television. That was I thoroughly enjoy. Honestly, I like the Chiefs games too. Beside the Tank Dell injury, that sucked. But that game was a wild ride, and props to Lamar. I thought one big takeaway I had, I thought it was one of the better games he's ever played, given the pressure on that moment. They took away his running ability, and he was just calm, cool, and collected. He just looked like I thought he was going to look last year in the playoffs. So props to him for kind of getting that game out of the way, and now it feels like the Steelers are in fucking shambles.
Yeah, I will say part of that had to do with injuries for the Steelers. I mean, their offense isn't the same without George Pickens, but the defense was ravaged by injuries. I mean, they were already missing two starters in the secondary, and then Joey Porter Jr. got hurt. They're also missing a start on the defensive line. Joey Porter Jr. got hurt, and the Ravens picked on Trice. So their corner situation, and then without Porter, they can't really run some of the stuff that they want to run. So their secondary was just in shambles, and the Ravens took full advantage. That's a huge storyline for this Steelers Chiefs game. I mean, there's injuries on both sides. The tackle situation for the Chiefs is in flux. Chris Jones might miss the game. He's massive. I mean, his presence is, and obviously his impact is hard to overstate. And then the Steelers, like, is Pickens going to play? I don't think Porter's going to play. Do they get any of their other secondary guys back? That's just, there's a lot of injury watch. And it's interesting because the Chiefs are still going for a one seed. The Steelers still playing for the division. They have the tiebreaker over the Ravens, but it's a short week. And then, if you err on the side of caution, because the playoffs, both teams can be in the playoffs, then you get extended rest before week 18. So I'm really, really curious to see how these teams handle the injury situation headed into this game. And Texans have a bunch of injuries too.
Well, I do think my initial reaction, obviously, it's hard to tell because this game comes at you so fast. And they mentioned this on the broadcast on Saturday, just how good Chris has played this year and what's that meant for the guys around him. So you're right, that is massive. I do think though, I know they would get a longer rest to play Denver, but that was a pretty scary game the last time they played the Broncos, and then having to go to Denver. That Andy and these guys want to end it right now,
Yeah.
right? Because I think for a split
Well, then
second
you
you're
just
like,
get all of the rest
yeah, for
with the
sure.
one
That's what
seed.
that's why I think they are a kitchen sink game. Because even if they were to lose it, they still got a little more time. I have a hard time seeing the Steelers, man. They are, like you said, their secondary the last 2 weeks with injuries and just miscommunications. I mean, they have been getting they got no shot. And the one thing the Chiefs showed a little bit more life, Xavier Worthy. I mean, now the more and more reps he's getting with Mahomes, still that deep ball is a little off. That Tyreek thing, it felt like he never missed when he when he began to start. But Andy's so good at getting them on like running little out routes, getting them pick plays. Like he's gonna find a way to use them, even if they got to wait till next year to hit the bombs. I just feel like the Chiefs now are kind of in like Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods. Like I'm going to end this fucking thing right now. Because for a split second on Sunday, it was like, are the Bills really going to do this? And you're like, no, they're playing Gerard Mayo and the Patriots. They'll be okay. So I think you have to assume that the Bills are winning the next two games. And I would imagine Andy's thinking that. And just to leave it to chance on the last game of the season, he would love to just basically give his guys 2.5 weeks off, especially because of all the teams like in NFL history, no group of core guys, even you can add DeAndre Hopkins to that, right? They're fine. They could take 2.5 weeks and no one's betting against them week one. I just think that loss for the Steelers was, Russell really had two plays. I didn't think he was that bad, but those two plays cost him the game. The fumble in the first half. Like, bro, you're
Yeah,
playing the
fumble
Ravens.
changed the game.
That was, I mean, at minimum, right, a 10-point swing, probably a 14-point swing.
Yep.
And it's like, you got it, Russell. This is like when you first started and you were playing the Harbaugh 49ers. This is that level game. I don't know what guys come out of nowhere. They will hit you as hard as humanly possible. And then that interception was just like, oh man, especially right after, I did Lamar miscommunication. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but regardless, it didn't hurt him at all. So I have a hard time. I'm out on the Steelers, and it's not all like the team that we were in on. I would say a month ago, not everyone was in on them, but the team that was really looking solid. The defense isn't nearly the same.
Yeah, I mean, I will say on the surface, this is your classic Tomlin spot, right? Everyone says they're cooked. They lost on the road twice to two really good teams, the
Isn't he
Eagles
bad on short weeks though?
and the Steelers. I don't know. I'd have to check that. I don't have.
I thought that was something that came up. Maybe it was a different. I thought he was a bad Thursday night guy. Maybe it
I'll
was
have to,
Thursday night as a favorite.
yeah, Thursday night, I think he hasn't been great. Monday night, I know Monday nights, I know he has. But this is the game like home dog. Everyone has been like they're cooked. But by the way, the Chiefs also got Hollywood Brown back. They need to be healthy. The Steelers need to be healthy on defense because they need to have guys in the secondary. Number one, to run what they want to run, and if they do, then that edge rush could give Mahomes problems, especially with the tackle situation in flux. Couple injuries there. Chris Jones is obviously worth monitoring. I think like the Chiefs getting lucky in games, a little overblown. Like they're just going to win close games. Their offense isn't explosive. Like they just kind of know that in the end, if it's close, they're going to win. And then
Yeah.
they just know how to run the clock down. Like, there's been a number of games where they could have won by more margin. So it is a classic Tomlin spot. I can't say what I bet right now. There's so much injury uncertainty on a short week. But historically, like the Steelers missed like 20 tackles last week. Like the tackling will be more buttoned up. And the Chiefs secondary does have issues. Since losing Jalen Watson, they have not been good. And the past 2 weeks, they got Jameis throwing a bunch of picks. The Browns turned it over 6 times. The Browns also didn't have Njoku. They lost a couple of receivers during that game. And the Texans, whose offense has been in the tank, were moving the ball at will. And then Tank Dell got hurt. And all you have to do now is just double Nico Collins. I mean, what do you just, you're going to throw to Dalton Schultz 50 times? There's a huge drop off. That loss is massive. He was cooking the Chiefs all game. It's, I think, 6 catches for 98 yards and basically a half on 7 targets. And this is a Texans offense, and they lost a couple offensive linemen during the game and Dell. So, like, the Chiefs have been getting lucky with injuries. Their secondary is vulnerable, but the Steelers need Pickens.
Yeah.
Need Pickens. So, is he going to play? I don't know. So, a lot of uncertainty there. I do know you'll get the Steelers' best effort at home after 2 straight losses on the road. Everyone's written like this is the rah-rah Tomlin spot. But if they don't have the players and the Chiefs do, and they say, hey, we're going all in, it's a tough ask. But as of right now, I have to wait and see. It's too early in the week.
I'm with you on if George Pickens plays, because then Calvin Austin can play a little bit of that Tank Dell role, who that speed. I mean, he was going nuts, and that's where going into the second game, your team's kind of hitting their stride. That Zach Orr, which was really, really ugly early, it feels like it's calmed down a lot. Obviously, and you hammered this home, and they were hammering home on the broadcast, moving Hamilton back. And basically, because early on in the season, he was essentially playing like Camp Chancellor at the line of scrimmage, and he was kicking ass, but they were getting smoked behind him. And then obviously it came into play in that game when he made a big play on center field on, a ball that probably shouldn't have been thrown, but still, like he's right there. And I just think that this Texans team, after that loss to Tank Dell, that felt like one of the every once in a while, obviously the Damar Hamlin injury several years ago was as jarring as anything we've ever seen. This felt like this wasn't life or death, but football in terms of an injury as rattling as you'll ever see a team. You had people crying. Obviously, they were really rattled after the game. I just don't know if you overcome that, man. Especially, he had his leg shattered last year in the end zone. Same thing this year, which is even worse. And I just their offensive line's not very good. I think they're just out of steam. This is just I bought into them before the season. It clearly has been a bumpy ride, but man, it feels like they're out of juice, and the Ravens kind of find their swag. And They got me. They bought me in last year, right around Christmas, when they beat the shit out of the 49ers. I feel like I'm getting jumping back on the bandwagon.
Yeah, the Ravens defense is playing better too. They made some changes. Uh, where they played Hamilton, putting Washington in at safety, really just playing Humphrey in the slot, who's been amazing, and it's really helped. Defensive line also getting healthier. I don't think the defense was great last week, but just the trend line of the defense, it was so bad, the pass defense early in the season, especially over the middle of the field. They've addressed some of those issues, and they're much healthier. Although you got to watch Zay Flowers, Tyler Linderbaum on the injury report. It's tough on a short week. You got to monitor the injury report. The Texans, yeah, they have more offensive line injuries. That was the game where it was okay. Let's see if we can get the offense going, get confidence in Kansas City against someone we'll have to beat, most likely on the road, or definitely on the road.
Yeah,
And they did have it going. And this is the first time we've seen life from the offense
totally.
in months. And then Dell goes down, and you already lost Diggs. A couple more guys in the offensive line go down. I don't like their offense without Dell. You saw it. It just doesn't have the same juice. You're supposed to have Dell, Diggs, and Collins out there, and they just haven't been able to have all three healthy. And now you're not going to have Dell and Diggs for the rest of the year. That makes them so much easier to cover. It's just, hey, put your best corner on Collins, put a safety over top. Um, and then Stroud's going to be under pressure. You can't really run on the Ravens. Like that's been like kind of their bailout card in some games is Joe Mixon going off. Can't really run on the Ravens. I don't mind the under in this game. I think the Ravens defense is trending up and the Texans offense is very limited now. The Texans defense also has some key injuries, but the Texans defense has been elite all season. Anderson didn't practice with a hand injury. I would imagine he goes, but they already lost Petrie, who was playing like an all-pro level in the slot.
Stud.
Love him against the run, pass. He does so much. He got hurt. Then they had to move Jimmy Ward, your ex-Niner. He was playing well and filling that role nicely, but as a result, you have two rookies in the second. You had a rookie safety and a rookie corner. They were making do, but now Ward got hurt.
Yeah.
So, and then the Ravens know how to pick on a weakness of a defense. So these injuries for the Texans are a lot. So yeah, I don't disagree with you. And I don't mind Ravens unders are scary, but especially indoors. But I think their defense is trending up, and this Texans offense has been lost, and now you don't have Dell. And I think their defense will show up here. But it's from an injury standpoint, if you look at it for these two teams, the Ravens are probably going to be more aggressive than the Texans because the Ravens are still playing for the division, which is important. And the Steelers still have the Chiefs and the Bengals left, and the Ravens, I believe, have this game and then the Browns at home, which should be a win. So they're playing for the division. The Texans, they're playing for nothing. Like they've won their division. They're not jumping up to the 1, 2 seed. It's uh, let's get healthy and maybe try to figure out some things on offense. But from a motivation and standpoint, and that's what I mean by that is both teams will care, but how
Yeah.
you treat like the injuries for this week, the Ravens might be a little aggressive. So don't mind the under and uh, don't mind your Ravens take it all.
Ravens control their own destiny. They win out.
No, because the Steelers have the Steelers have the tiebreaker as of now. Um, and so they need the Steelers to lose a game, and which is much more like they need to win out and have the Steelers lose a game, um, which is much more likely to happen. I mean, the Steelers, like I said, Chiefs and Bengals, both of them are at home, but if the Ravens win this game, they get the Browns, who are a disaster
Yeah.
at home. So the Steelers do have the tiebreaker as of now. So yeah, the AFC North is TBD for the rest of the way.
So you could see it, Steelers lose in the morning. I could see the Ravens even up in their effort, coming out
Yep.
swinging. That might be a little, hammer that bet before kickoff if the Steelers just lost to the Chiefs because it feels like they could basically end it because they are going to be massive favorites against the Browns, who I mean, by that time, who are the Browns rolling out Miles Garrett and shit for that game? No chance, probably. Any guy like they're not going to risk someone snapping their leg or having a serious injury, especially more and more of these rumors about Miles Garrett potentially maybe this offseason, kind of pivot. Could he be on the trade block? Uh, that'll be it's a big little domino effect right there.
Yeah, Steelers not it would come down to common opponents. The common opponents tiebreaker. Steelers would be 9-3, Ravens would be 8-4 because they'd have the same, I think, conference division and record if they finish tied. So the Ravens have to finish a game ahead.
Okay, the Thursday night game. I don't understand how the Bears keep getting shoved down our throat, but has any team? I don't remember a team that has good players and then does stuff in the second half, like shitty teams like the Giants. Like they're down big and they just stay down big. This team is pretty fraudulent in the sense of they'll be down 24-0 or 20-0 or 17-0, and then it'll just kind of ebb and flow, touchdown back and forth from there. But it's never the other team knows they cannot lose the game, and it's like, oh, look at all these Caleb touchdowns. He hasn't thrown a pick. It's like he's not even playing in real football games because of the way they're down. So I don't even know what to make of him. Obviously, he has a good arm and he's an intriguing prospect, but to think he's a good player based on some of these touchdowns down multiple scores in the second half against playoff teams, give me a break. Now, on the flip side, Seattle, that was a pretty devastating L for them on Sunday, especially after Geno leads them right down. I'm like, this is like the defining drive of Geno's career. The throw he made in the back of the end zone looked like fucking Favre. I mean, that was like a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, incredible catch. And then Darnold turns into Josh Allen meets Mahomes. And that's just a big kick in the you know what for Seattle. Now they're not technically dead yet, but to me, I could never bet on the Bears, but I could also see Seattle. Feels like maybe they just had a juice after I mean, that was a kitchen sink game for them, running fake punts, and I don't know. It wouldn't shock me if they lay an egg here, but their egg, it might not matter because you're playing the Bears.
Yeah, this is a tough game. I mean, you're generally speaking in the final 2 weeks of the regular season, these teams who are playing for nothing and are out of it, playing teams that need to win, are a good bet because you're usually paying a premium on the teams that need to win. Everyone knows they need to win, and
Like
you know
Lions Niners, like what are the Niners playing for now? Like that felt like it's over now. Now you're getting the
exactly.
Lions. The
So
line's not that
who
big. I
wants
can
to
see the
bet the
Lions.
Niners?
Yeah,
But
nobody.
historically, those have been good bets. They're still professional. People still show up. Yeah, I mean the Seahawks outplayed the Vikings. If you look yards per play, success rate, yards per attempt, yards per rush, they lost the turnover battle. It's a lot of times what football games come down to, and they killed themselves with penalties. The biggest one, and they had like 10 penalties. Like the biggest one was they were up four on the Vikings, and they get a sack, which pretty much would have ended the game. It would have been like 3rd and 20, but they grabbed Darnold's face mask. Next play, 40-yard touchdown. Uh, Devastating loss. But they were really good in that game. Should have won, but they killed themselves with their own mistakes. They're like, yeah, do they get up off the mat here? Their defense is trending in the right direction. They made some personnel changes in the secondary. They got healthier. They made healthier along the defensive line. They got healthier in the secondary. Made some personnel changes at linebacker. McDonald has that team playing well. The one exception was the Packers game, but the trend line for that defense, they played well last week. You get the turnover led to a short field on the Vikings, and the Vikings have a good offense. And then, you get that penalty and give up 40-yard touchdown to Justin Jefferson. You had two guys there that just whiffed on it. Um,
It was an incredible throw too. I mean
yeah, it
that
was a
that was
great throw. He got crushed. It was an amazing throw. It's hard to bet the Bears. I bet some Bears last week at +7. It did not end well. It's amazing that they're down every week. It's 20-0. It's like clockwork. Come out. I do think they miss Eberflus on the defense.
they're worse. I mean they're solid with the Jets. Same thing, right? You remove
Yep,
that
same
guy, they
thing.
got dramatically worse.
Yeah, and they miss Eberflus defensively, and then Graham is in over his head, trying to be the head coach, offensive coordinator. Um, it's a mess. They can't stop the run. So yeah, this is a tough game. Like situationally, price wise, it's probably going to get too expensive. And you're supposed to play the Bears, but um, can you put your hard-earned money on the Bears right now? I'm not sure. It's a tough game.
I think that was a game, even in a loss, if I'm a Seahawks fan. I'm not saying McDonald's going to be as good of a coach and have a resume like Pete. Obviously, you got to win Super Bowl, go to another one, win a national championship. Like Pete's a legend. But clearly, the last couple of years, his teams did not look like that. So if
Yep.
I'm a Seattle fan, what Ryan Grubb, who clearly you never know with a college guy how it's going to transition. I mean, they when they're healthy, they look pretty freaking explosive. And I think back to the Packer game, the gap that was pretty. I actually earned. I think Gino earned everyone's respect. Like, hey guys, we can nitpick me all we want, but relative to who else we got on this roster, I look like Joe Montana meets Brett Favre. I mean, Sam Howell. Also, it
That
brings into
was,
light like their O line sucks. So
yep.
Gino's kind of mobility and toughness standing behind there, and Gino has an underrated arm. We talk about big arms. No one ever mentions him. Sometimes you watch like Jesus. Like, listen, as a Purdy guy, 49er guy here. I mean, Gino's throwing 100, Purdy's throwing like 88, right?
Yep.
I mean, Gino's got a hose. So I, I, I was impressed with Seattle, and clearly they're not. They win this game. They're not dead by any means, right? Playing the Rams week 18. How does that? Do you know how that tiebreaker works? If they both win this weekend and then they play week 18, is that winner get in?
Rams Seahawks would be, hold on, let me make sure I got it right before I say it.
Rams have 9 wins, huh? So they
Well, no matter what, if the Rams beat the Seahawks, because they would sweep.
they beat them,
Um,
yeah, and they'd have another win than them. So
so if the
The Rams control their own destiny.
Yes, if the Seahawks and Rams both win this week, and then Seattle wins in week 18, they'd be finished. They'd be tied in head-to-head division and conference record. Would come down to strength of victory, and it looks like the Rams have a clear edge right now. So the Seahawks would need a lot of help. Like they need, yeah, it looks
They
like the Rams. So it looks like what the Rams need, I mean, what the Seahawks need, then they need the Cardinals to win.
they need the Cardinals,
They need the
you're saying,
Cardinals
to
to
beat the Rams.
beat the Rams. Yeah,
Okay.
and they need to win out. Yeah, it's a devastating loss, and then the Jets not being able to capitalize on any trips into Rams territory really hurt them. So Rams definitely in the driver's seat as of now.
I mean, at one point in time on Sunday, it felt like it was going like, God, the Jets probably going to win this game, and Seattle's looking good. It was about to go the other way, and then
Yeah, it was Jets
when it
9-9. It was 9-9. They were driving. They were like the 12-yard line, and they decided to go for it on fourth down. Didn't get it. Um, and that kind of flipped the game. There was a drive earlier in there. They got down to the three, couldn't score. They missed a field goal. They went for it on their own 30 and didn't get it. I mean, there was a comedy of errors by the Jets, which really helped the Rams out because they were flat. I mean, their offense did nothing in that game. It's so yeah, the Rams are in the driver's seat. Cardinals eliminated, losing to the Panthers. So that division, which looked like it was going to come down to the last game, might not, uh, based on how these results go. Uh, the Rams might be sitting pretty.
Okay, before I get you out of here, just looking at some of the schedules. I know you love a good random shitty bowl game that doesn't matter to most people, but you always find value. Looks like we got a pretty good slate Friday: Oklahoma Navy, Georgia Tech, Vandy, Tech, Arkansas, Syracuse, Wazoo, the Trojans at A&M. Does that have blowout written all over it for your Aggies?
I don't know. I mean, Texas A&M, USC gets to play in Vegas. They played there. Their quarterback used to play at UNLV. They played there earlier this season. A&M's three best defensive linemen are opting out. USC has a bunch of receivers opt out, but they still have talent there. I, I think there's a chance they could potentially keep it close. I got to see who ends up playing for sure. Syracuse should blow out Washington State. That line was I think opened at three. It's up to 16 and a half. Everyone on Syracuse is playing. They care. Brown's all in. They said we don't opt out. Washington State is down. Its head coach, offense coordinator, defensive coordinator, quarterback coach, running back coach. 11 starters have opted out. There might be more. They're playing a backup quarterback. That game might close 20. I'm surprised Washington State didn't forfeit the bowl.
Where'd the defensive coordinator go with Dickert?
Uh, their defensive coordinator,
Because the OC and quarterback went to Oklahoma, right? Which feels a
yep,
little basketball package deal-y to you, or am I just being conspiracy
yep,
theory there?
yes. He was fired. Their defensive coordinator was fired.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's an absolute mess.
Is that quarterback?
And
Is that quarterback good?
I think he's okay. I don't think he's gonna like he wasn't playing great competition, and I don't think that's like the ceiling that Oklahoma
I
thinks
mean,
it is.
I understand. I don't know. I mean, Jackson Arnold, he gets benched, he comes back. Not totally his fault. And you were saying this early on, they're missing a million wide receivers. I mean, you could have put Baker or Kyler there. It would have been a struggle with who was out there. Then he goes to Auburn, which I read for like $2 to $3 million, which seems a little crazy to me. But then they go with
Insane.
this quarterback and this offensive coordinator, who I text a couple scouting buddies. They're like, yeah, he's really tough, but I wouldn't exactly say he's what they've been used to in their heyday. So it just Oklahoma feels a little lost right now, and maybe it's hard with the NIL situation, and maybe they just felt comfortable getting this package deal. But I mean, you're seeing these opt outs. It's hard to keep track. I mean, every day you look up, there's another guy, another guy, another guy, and a lot of it's declaring for the draft or transfer portal, but it changes these teams dramatically. Like you said, Washington State, who I think you tweeted out, no team finished worse. And it might have simply been like, did everyone kind of see the writing on the wall? Like, I'm out, I'm out, the coach is out. Maybe they all kind of internally quit and they were just looking forward because they were pretty good. Like they were they've been
Yeah.
good the last couple of years. So I wonder if mentally everyone checked out and they just kind of went through the motions, which is it fair to say that probably is what happened because I remember
Yep.
your tweet, like you look like how the fuck did they lose as enormous favorites 3 times in a row? Well, now looking back, it kind of makes sense, right? Which I wish we would have known. We would have hammered the big underdogs. You could have got some of them probably like 3 or 4 to 1.
Yep. Yeah, they were all double digit dogs. They lost the ball. So like writing was on the wall, and now everyone is left. That could get ugly. And Syracuse, some of the kids that were on the bowl game last year, they didn't have a coach. They lost 45-0. These teams without a coach, that when they have all the players opt out, they usually get blown out. Oklahoma Navy, that line's gone from 7-3. Bunch of Oklahoma opt outs. I always take the Service Academy in the bowl. I just, especially when they're a dog, 70% against the spread, excuse me, since 1970. If you just want to go back past 10 years, 15-3 straight up, 15-3 against the spread, 7-2 straight up against Power Four teams. Why? They always show up. Motivation's never a question. And motivation is huge for these meaningless bowl games. And Oklahoma, do they really want to spend like their holiday break preparing for the triple option? Probably not. Is their staff really focused on this game? Probably not. They're probably focused on the portal, recruiting
Yeah.
next year. So the preparation advantage, and Navy, they don't have to do any of that stuff. Texas Tech, Arkansas is an interesting one. Arkansas, ton of opt-outs, all their receivers,
Didn't
all
the
their rookies.
quarterback transfer?
Now, quarterback Taylor Green, he's staying, but all their receivers opted out. Their tight end, multiple offensive linemen, their running back, their best defensive players are opting out. Texas Tech's quarterback's out though due to surgery, so they're going with a backup quarterback. I still like Texas Tech. They're like a 1.5 point dog. I think that but Texas Tech also doesn't have any coordinators. They replaced their coordinators. Really interesting game, but Arkansas's offense is a mess right now. And Texas Tech, their backup, he played some this year. I think he's actually a better fit for the offense. He has some mobility. I think Taj Brooks, who's an NFL running back, is going to play. He was listed on the depth chart. If he does, Texas Tech's roster is in much better shape. So I like the Red Raiders there. Georgia Tech, Vandy's two teams I wanted to bet in bowl season with their quarterbacks, Haynes King, Diego Pavia. Pavia will be healthier. Catching three, I think you just take the points there. But that's a tricky one. But yeah, Friday, some interesting bowl games, although that Syracuse one could get ugly.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, last one though. The Fighting Belichick's at Fenway Park. Now, Freddie Kitchens, legendary Freddie Kitchens, former Browns coach, coaching the game, but not really coaching for a job because Belichick's already said he's on the staff. So is this a kitchen sink game for Freddie Kitchens? Does he even have a kitchen sink game in him? It's outdoor Southern team playing UConn, who I'll be honest, I haven't watched a snap of UConn football since Jim Mora's been there. But I would imagine Jim Mora is going to take this shit seriously. North Carolina favored by 3. You would imagine Belichick will be kind of usually that interim guy or not the interim guy, but the new coach who lets the another guy coach is usually there. So I bet a lot of these guys on the team you would think would want to stay and play for him. So does North Carolina, who was atrocious this year on defense, right? So how does this thing play out? Is this a stay away?
Probably. If I was gonna play it, I would play UConn. Just no coach. I don't know about Belichick's one. He's probably have to worry more about the roster construction.
He
UConn will
might he might
care
not go.
here.
He might not go because they're just doing portal and recruit. He might not even
Yeah,
care.
they have so much other stuff to do. North Carolina does have some key opt-outs. The biggest one is Hampton, who's one of the best backs in the country. He's going to play in the NFL. He opted out. One of the best receivers, couple offensive linemen. So North Carolina and their best defensive end opted out as well for the NFL draft. So they're not at full strength. UConn's probably all in here. It means a lot to their program. Again, the coachless team. It's UConn. I mean, look, you're paying the premium here because the line has come down, but it would be UConn or nothing. But weird game.
Okay, Stuckey. I'll get you out of here. Have a good Christmas. Have a good Hanukkah. Whatever you may celebrate. Enjoy just football.
I
And
celebrate bowls.
yeah, same. And the NFL on Wednesday. So I will talk to you next week as we get looking forward to some more college football playoff games, as well as the final week of the NFL, which might not be great, but so we can focus on college for sure.
Yeah,
But
hopefully we get some more competitive college football playoff games, which we should get. Georgia, Notre Dame, at least, and Ohio State, Oregon. And yeah, I got to dive into the other two matchups and see if Boise State can make it a game, if Arizona State can make it a game. They will have two really good backs to lean on in Ashton Genty and Cam Scatterbo. So yeah, Cam, excited to talk about that. But Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone, early Happy New Year, and I'll see you next week.
we just need one of those two guys to go like Steph Curry at Davidson against Kansas.
Yep,
Just to
yep.
rush for like 250 and have a legendary, a historic moment in college world.
That's the good thing with the teams that benefited the most from the bye, which wasn't Oregon because they got to play Ohio State. Georgia, because they have to go to the backup. So one, you don't have to put him on tape for a game,
Yeah.
and you can try to come up with some things and assimilate them into the offense. And Notre Dame doesn't really know what to expect, so they benefited from having that bye. And then Arizona State and Boise State, obviously, they probably would have lost in the first round. I shouldn't say probably, but they would have been underdogs. So them not having to play an extra game. But you get Genty and Scotto who got fed the ball all year. You get some time to rest up. Like they're going to come out with everything they got, rejuvenated, fresh legs, and I'm sure both teams are going to lean on them. So I wouldn't be surprised if one or both has a really big day.
Okay, Stuckey, have a great week. Talk to you soon.
You too, brother. Cheers.